Welcome to From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing the challenges and providing tips for women in tech leadership. Hi, I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and in each episode, we'll hear from other successful women in tech, sharing their stories, insights, and advice. Join us as we empower each other to reach our full potential in the tech industry. Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of my new podcast called From a Woman to a Leader. So nice to meet you everyone. My name is Limor Bergman-Gross, and I have been in the tech industry for over 20 years. I started my career as a software engineer and grew to leadership positions, eventually became a director of engineering. I moved countries along the way and started a family. I have 4 children. And my journey has been not easy always. And along the way, I discovered that I'm very passionate about supporting women. And it started with me becoming a manager. And as a manager, I had more control of, or I would say, or influence of what I could do. So at first I started to figure out how can I hire more women to my team. And I wanted also not just to hire more women, I wanted to make them feel comfortable. I wanted to help them grow. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me. So I also started mentoring engineering managers from other companies voluntarily. It was around 2017 that I started doing that. And I found out that I really love it, really enjoy it. And also the feedback I've been receiving from managers I mentored was very, very positive, and they were grateful. All in all, all the things that happened to me in my career led me to eventually deciding to make a shift and focus solely on supporting women in the tech industry. So what I did, I left a comfortable job, high-paying job as the director of engineering, and decided to do something different. And decided to start with an unfamiliar territory for me as an independent consultant, contractor, whatever you may call it. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. Eventually, it led me to becoming a coach, and I took a coaching program and I became a coach. And that's mainly what I do today. I coach women in tech leadership positions and help them. Podcasting, the idea of podcasting came to my mind maybe about a year ago. I talked with a friend that I met at one of the tech conferences I was speaking at, and he was a speaker too, and he told me about a platform that matches between podcasters to guests. And I signed up to that platform. It's called Podmatch. And I started meeting different people all over the world and be featured on different podcasts. And I found out that that's a wonderful opportunity to share my voice, to share my opinions, my tips, my values to the world, but also, and even more importantly, to meet incredible people and connect with people around the world. So after doing that for about a year, I said, okay, so why don't I also start my own podcast and give the voice to other women. And the focus that I have is women in leadership positions in tech, women who succeeded and got to the top. And I want those women to share with you what helped them get there. And that's the whole point of this podcast, From a Woman to a Leader. And let me share with you today a few tips of my own, not to leave you empty-handed. And so when I started, I was in my early 20s. I didn't know exactly how my career will shape. I just started as a software engineer, and I was very inconfident. I was working only with men. That made me feel uncomfortable for some reason. because I was most of the times the only woman or among very few of us. And I just felt different. I felt maybe I'm not equal to other men. And it was hard for me. It was very difficult. I didn't have anyone to kind of encourage me other than, friends, family, and so forth. But I pushed my way forward. And eventually what happened was that I one day was promoted to a staff engineer. And what happened before that is that I never kind of pushed to be promoted or to what I wanted. It just happened. So my assumption was that if I do a good enough job, someone will notice me and I'll get promoted. It happened, to be honest. I mean, to some extent it worked, but I found out that it's not the way it should be. I mean, I shouldn't count on it, let's put it that way. And on that day that I was told that I'm promoted to a staff engineer, I remember that day, I was on a business trip in North Carolina, and I got a phone call from my manager, and my manager was very excited, telling me that I got promoted to a staff engineer. And my immediate reaction was gratitude, and I was very happy. But that was also a turning point for me, because what happened was that I started thinking about my career and what I wanted. And staff engineer was a level that in the company I worked for at that time, Sun Microsystems, that was where there was a split in the career path between an individual contributor technical path to a management path. So I don't remember the name of the role before staff engineer, but when you're promoted for, let's say, a senior engineer to a staff engineer back then, it was either a staff engineer or an engineering manager. And that got me thinking, okay, and my manager decided to promote me to a staff engineer, but is this actually what I want? Do I actually want to build my career on diving deep technically, on becoming an expert, becoming a subject matter expert in a specific technical field? Or do I want to become a manager or a leader of some sort? And the answer was pretty clear to me when I asked myself that question. I knew that I wanted to become a manager. I loved working with people. I liked creating interactions. I felt that I had the good qualities of a manager. I'm a great listener. I'm empathetic. I know how to work with different people. Sometimes not the easiest. I can handle pretty much any personality. And I felt I will probably be a good manager. Unfortunately, I know it took me from that point until I actually was promoted to a manager. It took me 4 years to get there. And that also was completely by coincidence. There was a management position open and I was pregnant with my second child, and that was an opportunity for me to move to becoming a manager. And my husband really encouraged me to apply, although I really didn't believe that I'll get there. And eventually I got that position, and from that point on, I knew what I wanted and I started to push my career forward. The point I want to make here is that I wish I was more intentional about my career, and I wish I took the driver's seat sooner. And even when I did, I wish that I had someone there to support me, because I think that if I did, probably I would get to a more significant and senior roles than I did. I don't regret anything because I don't see much value in that, but I'm just thinking backward, and the more important thing is that I want to help others make the most out of their careers based on what they want. I'm not saying that everyone necessarily wants the same things I did, but the thing I want to leave you on this episode is that you need to be intentional. You need to know what you want, because if you don't, others will decide for you, like people decided for me. In the best case scenario, someone will notice what you're doing and will promote you. Again, not necessarily on the path you want, like what happened to me, but they will. And, in less optimal scenarios, maybe no one will notice or you won't get recognized. So you need to be intentional and you need to push your way forward. You cannot expect someone to notice. And those are one of the things that I work with my clients. And I want to leave that with you today. It's not easy, I'll tell you that, especially, for women, because women, and I know that from personal experience and also from so many women I work with. And I have, since 2017, I have a lot of mileage working with different women on those topics. Women feel uncomfortable for some reason saying out loud what they want. It's not just about money. I'm talking about their career goals, what they want to achieve. They feel uncomfortable. They think that they need to be quiet, good, obedient, do their job. I don't know why. I don't know why it happens, but it happens more so for women than men. That's at least what I noticed. I'm not saying that all of the women are like that, but many are, unfortunately. And I was, to be honest. And we need to change that. We need to be more assertive. We need to know what we want and tell people what to do. Otherwise, if we don't tell people what to do, if we don't tell our managers what we want, it may not happen for us. So I guess that's what I want to leave you today. And I'll be happy to hear from you. What are the topics you would like me to discuss? So what I plan to do is I plan to talk with different women, as I said, in tech leadership, and I want them to share their stories and also share tips and what helped them get to where they got in their careers. And I want to ask you really to tell me what kind of things bother you, what are the things that are on your mind, so I can find the right people and talk about topics you're interested at. You can find me on LinkedIn, Limor Bergman. Just type Limor Bergman and you'll find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to connect with me. I'm happy to connect with anyone and to talk with you and help you. Just reach out and share what is bothering you, what is holding you back, and what would you like to listen to, what would you like to hear from other women in tech leadership. Thank you so much for listening for my first episode, and I promise you more to follow. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. This is your host, Limor Bergman Gross, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Limor Bergman, and let me know. What do you think about the episodes? Feel free also to comment on Apple Podcasts and tell me, what do you want me to talk about? Which guests do you want me to bring? I really appreciate that, and have a wonderful day.